Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday night. I've lost track of how many Tuesday nights I've done this now. Yeah. So tonight, what I thought I would do, since we have this minor holiday coming up in a couple weeks here, y'all know what it is. Thought I would do some classical stuff that is a bit scary and spooky. I just did the Han Solo pose. Anyway, this is using the term classical music in its broadest sense. Those who study music subdivide classical into a number of different eras. So I've got a couple selections from the Baroque period, which would be Johann Sebastian Bach's time period, so I think prior to Mozart, basically. And I've got some selections from the Romantic period, which is essentially the 19th century, and apparently my camera's doing something. Oh, she's checking. Okay. Oh, sorry. I forgot I wasn't on that camera. I'm talking anyway. It's fine. Okay. Anyhow, a few selections from the Romantic period, which is my favorite time period, 19th century. And then a couple pieces by moi, so contemporary, although written more in the style of a more romantic period. Apparently in the classical period, they forgot how to make music scary, so there's nothing representing Mozart, early Beethoven, Schubert, that time period. What are you going to do? So let's see who is in the chat. I see Angelica is first, as usual. Hello, Angelica, and Dave Hill and Melissa. Hi, guys. And my wifey, Amanda. Hi, Amanda. I'm waving at her. She's not looking at me. It's fine. Hey, Mom. And presumably Dad is there, too. And Kathy B. And Hunter. Hey, how you doing? Let's see who else. Let's see. Oh, hey, Christina. All right. I don't see anybody else's name in the chat yet, but did you say Dave? I did. Okay. I did. But if I didn't see your name, hello. So what I thought I would start off with first is probably the most iconic Halloween, scary, spooky piece of music ever written, at least as far as how it's used. I don't think of it so much this way, scary, spooky, but obviously a lot of people associate it with that feeling. This is the famous, and I'm playing these all on the piano tonight. I decided not to bother with the digital. This and then one other piece I'm playing by Johann Sebastian Bach are originally organ pieces. And this one's going to be kind of interesting, this first one, because normally what I do is I play this piece off the organ score. And for those of you who don't read music, the challenge in doing that is on a piano score, piano sheet music, you've got one set of staff lines, you have 5 horizontal lines and spaces with a treble clef, and then below that you have the same thing but with a bass clef. And basically what it works out to is the upper set of lines, the upper staff, mostly you play with the right hand, and the lower staff you mostly play with the left hand. The organ, because the organ has a keyboard for the feet, and it's literally a keyboard for the feet. It's called the pedals. But the organ adds an additional bass line staff. And of course, the challenge is if you're playing off an organ score and you're trying to translate that to just 2 hands on the piano and no foot keyboard at all, how do you do it? Now, the first portion of this piece, there's little enough going on in the original pedal part that Bach wrote for the organ that's totally doable. You can absolutely read this off the organ score. It works just fine. The fugue portion of it, the second half of it, there are some spots, not the whole thing, but there are some spots where it gets a little bit wiggly trying to figure out all the notes. So what I did was I took a transcription for piano by somebody else and combined that, portions of that into this score. So it's kind of a hybrid score, and I discovered just a few minutes prior to starting the show that the pages are at extremely different resolution. So if I have my usual 2 pages up, on the screen. One of them's normal, and one of them's about this big. I can't read it. So I have to have one page up at a time, which means I'm turning pages twice as much. And yeah, it should be interesting. I'm also not used to playing the piano transcription. I just literally decided to try that last night because it is a little bit easier mentally, to see what's on the page and be able to play it than the original organ version. Anyway, long explanation.
Hunter says, say organ score again.
Organ score. Oh no, Kathy B is in misery. Oh, mosquitoes. Yeah, mosquitoes suck. Yeah, they were really bad this year. Thankfully, Amanda, well, not thankfully, Amanda got horribly bitten and was super itchy for weeks. Thankfully for me personally, I was getting bitten, but I wasn't itching badly from it. But it does remind me of when I was growing up and this is back in the days of mostly ineffective flea collars for dogs, and our dog had fleas, and the fleas loved me and my dad. And oh man, those bites were really itchy. Really sucks. Now we have things like Bravecto, which is a chewable that the dogs can take every 3 months, and no fleas. It's wonderful. Anyhow, all right. So I don't think I quite come out and said it yet. I'm playing the Bach's famous Toccata and Fugue in D minor. This is BWV. That's the catalog system, is referred to as the BWV. Number 565, and the reason I make that distinction is he wrote another organ piece called Toccata and Fugue in D minor. It's commonly known as the Dorian for the mode. I won't even get into what that means, but the mode that it uses, and that's a different catalog number. So anyhow, the famous one, the one everybody knows, is the one I'm hopefully about to play fairly well. Toccata and Fugue in D minor. All right, and there you have it, the mostly right notes version. There's, yeah, a few spots in there that I'm like, it's like I know what the notes are. My hands kind of know what the notes are, but it's written because I was playing that some of that off of a piano transcription that I'm not used to the way it appears on the page. So like the notes are all there and they are all the same, but the way it's written is not what I'm used to seeing, and so it's like there's a disconnect that happens. You almost have to unlearn what you got used to before and relearn, based on how it's written. I'm trying to think of an analog or an example of what that would be like for those of you that don't read sheet music. It would be like if you got really used to reading a book that where like the line spacing and the paragraph spacing and stuff is just however it is, you've gotten really used to that, and then you try and read out loud maybe a different edition where some of the line spacing and the paragraph spacing makes no sense whatsoever, and it just kind of throws you for a loop. Yeah, that's closest example I can think of. Yes, thank you, Amanda. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey, Pam. I saw a hi Pam in there, so I'm assuming Pam has joined us. So I will have one more piece by Bach. Yes, that pregnant pause at the end there was the end. So the other piece by Bach I'll play in a little bit here, and that second one is definitely by Johann Sebastian Bach. The one I just played, there is some doubt as to whether that piece was actually written by Bach or not. I think originally, well, it stems from a few things, and this is getting back into music publishing practices back in the 18th century, or not what they are now, certainly. And the oldest extant copy of that piece of music, that toccata and fugue in D minor, is not written. It's not an autograph, meaning a handwritten copy or a signed copy by J.S. Bach. The oldest extant copy is just that, a copy that somebody else wrote down and attributed to Bach. But there is zero evidence, concrete proof that Bach did indeed write that piece. And stylistically, it is pretty different from most of his other organ music. It's I know it probably didn't sound like it to the layperson, but it's a lot less complex than most of his other organ music. And really interesting thing too is in the fugue, that thematic material, it goes for a while, and then the toccata portion, kind of not the exact same thing as you had at the opening, that doesn't come back, but that general feeling of big crashing chords followed by very fast runs, that's not part of the fugue. That is actually more of the toccata, bits of it come back in the fugue, and that is not something that Bach typically did. So there's a number of reasons why people think Bach may not have written this piece, but it's the kind of thing, if he didn't, nobody knows who did. And it's not to take anything away from the piece of music. It is brilliant, and it's incredible. But who knows if Bach actually wrote it? It's a mystery. Maybe they can tackle that in Magical Mystery Hour. Musicology episode. Yeah, okay. Amanda's giving the wall the look, but the wall is getting the look. Yeah. Bad kerning. Yes, Hunter, I agree. I absolutely agree. Bad kerning is indeed a pet peeve. Same here. I wonder how they do it in Kern County. Hopefully well. Somebody takes my hanger, I get angry.
Like, or they put their jacket on the back of my chair.
Oh, jacket on the back of the chair. Is now a time to reveal to Amanda that occasionally I steal hangers from her side of the closet? No, probably not. I'll just...
It's not a show. It's not something that's been assigned to me.
Oh, I see. It's at shows. Okay, I got you.
Shows.
Oh, I missed...
Like when they put
Oh, I see. I missed the...
area.
Okay.
Like I said, I'll come back with the jackets when like their drink will be on my station. I'm like,
Yep.
you have an assigned spot. Go use it. I don't get
But when I do, it's the most interesting anger in the
When I
world.
do, it's usually irrational.
I know, Pam. I can't imagine Amanda angry either. Like she never gets mad about stuff, or if she does, it's not that. Yeah, it's all in her head. Never really makes it out. Anyway, all right. So next up for you guys, I have a piece that I wrote back in 1997. This was while I was in college. This was a piece I believe I wrote for a music class I was taking, and the assignment was, excuse me. I think at the time we were studying Chopin probably, and I believe the assignment was to write something in the style of Chopin, you know, that kind of middle period, early-ish to middle period romantic, and by that I mean Chopin was born along with a number of other brilliant, incredible, hey Lily, composers. He was born in I think 1810. I think Liszt and Robert Schumann were both born in 1810. There were, and I want to say a couple of others too. There was Mendelssohn was born around that same time period. Chopin died at the young age of 39 in 1849 of tuberculosis. It was, would have been amazing to see where he could have gone as a composer had he lived. I will be playing some stuff by Chopin later. He wrote almost exclusively for piano, and which is one of the reasons why I love his stuff, because it's my instrument, right? But he was starting to branch out a bit. He'd written a couple of early piano concertos as kind of show pieces for piano and orchestra, and then he went back to just exclusively piano, or up until close to the end of his life when he started writing some songs for piano and voice. He wrote a sonata for piano and cello. He was just starting to get beyond the piano. And anyhow, so this piece was supposed to be written in the style of Chopin. I'm not sure how well I achieved that, but I like it, and it seems to fit with the Halloween theme. So this is Prelude in D minor, written 1997 was what? 20 years ago? I can't do math. Somebody who can do math. How long ago was 1997? 17 years ago? No. 18 years ago. No, that's 15 years. My first thought, honest to God, my first thought was 15, and then my brain's like, no, that doesn't sound right. That's not enough time since 1997. No, it's 25 years.
Oh yeah, I did. Sorry, I meant.
Yeah, it's 25. Okay. Okay. Oh, she had two. Okay. We get there in the end. This is why I did not become an astrophysicist. I'm an auditor instead.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at chats and talking to Lily.
Yay! We'll pretend there's clapping because Amanda, I think, got up to let the dog out and probably didn't realize that was a very short piece I was playing. Oh, now they're just standing out there. Lovely. Oh, those dogs. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that was it. Yeah, that was kind of an interesting composition of mine because, as you may have noticed, I mean, it's written in D minor, which is this key here, but it doesn't stay there very long. It really, I decided that I wanted the melody line, such as it is, to kind of sit in one spot, and I wanted to see how much can I do with the chords around it, changing key, modulating is what it's called when you change key, partway through a piece. I wanted to see how much can I do with this where I'm keeping the melody note, just that constant A. Maybe it goes to a G or B flat or up here a little bit, but it always comes back to that A. So it's something that, years ago when I first wrote it, I didn't like it as much, and now I'm like, oh, it's actually, I think maybe it's not all that bad. Especially for being written by a college student who really didn't know what he was doing. So. All right. Oh, thank you, Pam. Yeah, that one, and I'm playing one more of my pieces, I think towards the end of this set for tonight. All right, so next up, hopefully, this is another really difficult one. This is the famous Prelude in C sharp minor by Sergei Rachmaninoff. Speaking of pieces that composers didn't like, this is one that Rachmaninoff grew to absolutely abhor because he wrote it when he was young, and by young I mean I think he was a teenager, maybe early 20s at the oldest. And as a composer, he moved. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. Fast forward 10, 15 years, he had moved light years beyond where he was at when he wrote this piece. But it continued to be a fan favorite. Everybody wanted him to play it as an encore at all of his concerts. And, if you have to play the same thing over and over and over and over again, especially if it's something that you don't consider to be an amazing work compared to what you've written subsequently, yeah, it's understandable that he didn't really like it, but everybody else loves it. It doesn't have any title beyond Prelude in C sharp minor. This is out of his Opus 3 set of fantasy pieces. And fantasy in this context, typically when used as a title for an individual piece, typically it was a free form. It didn't have a set form. It wasn't a sonata. It wasn't a scherzo. It wasn't a minuet. It wasn't numerous other types of pieces that had a specific set form where things happen in a certain way. And so, these though they are called fantasy pieces, they do kind of have set forms, but Rachmaninoff, I think, is a little bit more free with them. So anyhow, this is the famous Prelude C sharp minor by Rachmaninoff, and off we go. I tell you, I am never ready for how fast you have to back off of that piece of the big stuff that goes on. And you really, it ends very suddenly. You really have to bring it back to get the, bring it down for the ending. Incredible piece of music though, and I picked it tonight obviously because it is just, it's so sinister, it's boom, boom, boom. I'm not sure what exactly inspired it. I mean, it might have been like Carol on a Bells. It kind of has that feeling of bells. But I don't know if that's an association that people made after the fact, or if it actually inspired Rachmaninoff. If it did, it would not be the first time that bells, carillons, have inspired composers. I think it was Dvorak's First Symphony, which was written for a competition, and he did not win the competition, and apparently was never performed during his lifetime. It's really sad. It's called The Bells of Swannice, and it's a cool piece of music. Anyway, I digress. I digest. Except I don't because I didn't have dinner. Beside the point. Pam, it is very dynamic. I mean, the sinister is really it's kind of the same, for me, the same kind of feeling as some real bad news is knocking on the door. It's, anyhow, love that piece. Next up, I remember earlier I said I was going to play something else by Bach. This is a transcription I made myself for solo piano. This is one that I had long wanted to play and just couldn't do it off the organ score. It's too complex. A lot of the intervals between notes had to be reworked because, the way he wrote the left and right hand parts, you might have notes that are really far apart, and then the bass line's doing stuff down there, and you literally cannot play all of those notes at the same time with two hands on a piano. It's just physically impossible. So this is my attempt to make a playable piano version of it. There are others out there. Excuse me. They are all way too hard. I was trying to come up with something that I could play, or at least mostly play. And this is a lot of Bach's organ music consisted of two or sometimes even three separate pieces put together. They're almost presaging multi-movement works from later composers, like a sonata by Beethoven, for instance. But really what they grew out of was a tradition of what were called suites, S-U-I-T-E, where it would be a collection, oftentimes of dance pieces in the 17th century or 18th century, Baroque period. It was very common to have a suite of dance pieces. You have a courant, you have an allemande, you have a passacaglia, you'd have a minuet, a jig perhaps. And so some of those forms later grew into forms of music that composers in the classical and romantic time periods and contemporary would use for much longer, much more involved pieces of music. The four scherzos by Chopin are a prime example of, and Chopin's Polonaises as well, where he took an existing small dance form and just blew it up into this giant concert proportion piece of music. So anyhow, this piece of music I'm about to play is called the Passacaglia and Fugue in C minor. I'm only playing the Passacaglia portion of it. I have not tried transcribing the fugue portion of it yet. Oh, sorry, I keep yawning. My goodness. Did not sleep well last night. The fugue, so the way a fugue works, if you noticed in the toccata and fugue I played earlier, is you have an opening melody line, a subject line. And then it comes in again, but it's higher up. And then there's oftentimes a little transition passage, and then it comes in again in a lower voice, and then if it's for organ again, and go way down there. That is a normal fugue. What Bach did in the Passacaglia and fugue in C minor was he wrote, excuse me, he wrote a double fugue where there are not just one subject going at once. There's two of them happening at the same time, and it's a really complex piece of music. It's very, even on organ, it's a pretty challenging piece of music. So anyhow, this is just the Passacaglia portion, and the gimmick with the Passacaglia is that it is, I believe, an old Spanish dance form, and at least in the 18th century, it was centered around what is known as a ground bass. And by ground bass, I mean you've got essentially the same pattern of notes repeating over and over in the bass line. So the Passacaglia fugue in C minor, that is pervasive throughout the entire piece, both the Passacaglia and the fugue. This is just the Passacaglia portion, but you will hear that pattern repeated over and over again. And at some point, it goes up into the treble line. And so you'll hear it up there too. And in a lot of this, it's kind of mixed in the middle. At times, it's hard to pick out of all the other stuff that's going on. And earlier, when I said the toccata and fugue in D minor, what I played first was not that complicated. You might hear what I'm talking about. This is a much more, at least to me, a much more complex piece of music. So this is BWV number 582? I think 582. Oh, it's right there in front of me. Hello. Yeah, BWV 582, Passacaglia and Fugue in C minor by Johann Sebastian Bach. right, there you have my take on the Passacaglia Fugue in C minor. There's a few spots in there I'm not sure I actually have the right notes written down. Yeah, that's a tough one, and one of these days I want to try and transcribe the fugue. I don't know how playable it will be. That is, yeah, to me that ending it there never sounds quite right, because every time I've ever listened to recording the piece, I've always listened to the whole thing. And it's like, no, it doesn't end there. Oh, you changed the camera. The problem is the light on this camera, it's blue when the camera is active. The problem is the light never turns off because OBS keeps the cameras, both of them, active all the time. So unless I look over there at the screen that I can kind of see from all this distance away. Anyway. Oh, hey, Zach and Diana. I didn't say hi to you guys. I think I saw Zach's name pop up earlier. I hope you guys are doing well. All right, so next up on this Halloween spooky journey here, this next piece was written as kind of a joke by its composer, and he refused to allow it to be performed during his lifetime. Thankfully, wiser heads prevailed after he, and it's a very, very well-known piece now, or the collection of pieces is very well-known. I think there was only one. Amanda, do you remember which one? It was the Swan, that's right. There's only one movement of this collection of pieces that he allowed to be played while he was alive. The rest of them, no. And this whole thing came about because people regarded this guy as way too serious of a composer. Super serious. And so he was challenged to write something lighter. And this is what he came up with. And he kind of hated it, collectively. Even it's another example, like the Rachmaninoff piece, right? The composer couldn't stand it, but it's amazing. And I chose it for tonight, not because of the animal theme, but because it just kind of has that spooky, ghostly feeling that you might get around Halloween. So this is Aquarium from Carnival of the Animals by Camille Sansol. Yeah, isn't that an amazing piece of music? I mean, I can't believe that Sansol didn't like it. I don't know what was wrong with the guy. Maybe he's just an idiot. I don't know. That is one that is originally written for chamber ensemble, meaning a lot of the same kinds of instruments that you might have in an orchestra, just a lot less of them. Yeah, if you've never heard the original versions of Carnival of the Animals for the chamber ensemble group, I'm sure it's on YouTube. Look it up, listen to it. Sansol was a genius. I mean, he was an absolute genius. Even something he wrote as a joke is freaking brilliant. So, whatever. Oh, that guy. Anywho. All right, so next up, remember earlier I said I was going to be playing a couple of things by Frédéric Chopin. These are both out of his set of Preludes, Opus 28, and they are both fairly short pieces. And I selected them because, of course, sinister, spooky, scary feeling. I felt like they exemplified that a bit. Yeah, so, I mean, not a whole lot to say for these pieces other than collectively as a set, what Chopin was doing, something Bach started, trend, sort of, so to speak, that Bach started, where you'd write, in Bach's case, it was preludes and fugues for harpsichord back then, so keyboard, not organ. And he wrote them in all of the major and minor keys. And the whole idea behind it was around that time period, they had started to figure out what's called even tempering of a keyboard instrument. Something that a lot of people, especially non-musicians, probably don't realize is that, strictly speaking, in F sharp, that note, or this one, and a G flat, and on a piano keyboard, they are the same key, same note. In actuality, if you were being really strict about the difference in frequencies from one pitch to the next, an F sharp and a G flat are not quite the same pitch. And because of that, people had a really hard time tuning keyboard instruments back in the day. Because what would end up happening if you said, well, we've got note A is at, back then I think it was like 420 hertz or something. Today it's 440 hertz. That note, so back then it would have been pitched somewhere in between those two, I think. If you said, well, then the next note up from that is a certain number of hertz higher, and the next one is the same number of hertz higher than that. Well, by the time you get up here to what should be the same note an octave higher, it ain't the same note. It sounds horrible. So what they finally figured out to do was to slightly vary the frequency difference between each pitch, so you don't have the same jump in hertz frequency from one pitch to the next, and that's what results in all those notes sounding like the same, just an octave apart. Anyway, long-winded explanation, but that's what, so Bach wrote a couple sets of pieces, preludes and fugues, called The Well-Tempered Clavier, books 1 and 2. And in each book, he wrote a prelude and a fugue in each of the keys, 24 in all. So you have, starting off A major, A minor, B flat major, B flat minor, B major, B minor. You get the idea going on up. There ends up being 24 keys. So there's 12 different notes, and you have the major and minor of each. So that started a trend where composers would write collections of pieces in all of the major and minor keys, and that's where Chopin's 24 preludes come from, as far as it being a set of pieces in all the major and minor keys. And he wrote a couple of other preludes in later opus numbers that aren't connected to these. So anyhow, this is Prelude Opus 28, number 14, and then I'll be playing, I think number 22 is the other one. So this first one's in E flat minor, second one's in G minor. It'll be fairly obvious when I break from one piece to the next. I think I'll just play them back to back because they're both pretty short. So here we go. And if you weren't awake before, now you are. Yes, two of Chopin's preludes. They, like a lot of Chopin's music, they vary in difficulty. Those are two of the slightly more difficult ones. There's one that, which one is it? I think it was number 16. Yeah, look up number 16, Chopin Prelude, Opus 28, number 16. It is insane. A lot of very fast notes, a lot of big jumps in the left-hand part at the same time as the right-hand part's flying all over the keyboard. But what makes it so tough, I've tried playing it, I just forget it, is that even in some of the most difficult music, you tend to have the same notes, the same sort of patterns repeating over and over. And that's not the case in that prelude. It's like completely non-repetitive. And so it's like you have to learn every single note of the thing. It's just ridiculous. Anywho, it's a cool piece though. One I wish I could play. Someday when I reincarnate as an actual concert pianist, maybe I'll be able to handle it. Thank you, Emily. Yes, I like this shirt actually quite a lot. I got it at Kohl's because they sell all kinds of t-shirts now. And yeah, it's, Rainbow for Pride Support and Star Wars, and I was like, how can you go wrong? And it was, I think, the last one on the shelf too, because I happened to be there. It was like a week or two after Pride Month. I just happened to see it, and I was like, cool, I'll take it. All right, next up, this is, I think, well, I know I played it last year on my Halloween themed show. I don't remember if I let off with this one. No, I think I let off with the Toccata View like I did this year. This one is entitled A Haunted House. This is by an American composer, a 19th century composer by the name of Edward MacDowell. He was an East Coast composer, and so a lot of his music is heavily influenced by his geographical area and just seasons and that kind of stuff. I don't know specifically what inspired this, but it is sinister and it's dark, and it's just, it perfectly encapsulates being in this old, decrepit, boarded up house, no real light coming in, and you're kind of jumping at the shadows, and your wind whistling through cracks in the walls and the doors, and it's just spooky as all get out. So I love it. This is one of my favorite pieces by McDowell. This is a haunted house. I think one thing I really love about that piece is that harmonically, it never quite goes where you think it's going to go. Do you think you have it down? And it just goes somewhere else. Yeah, really, really cool piece of music. Ooh, Mom, thank you for putting that in the chat. I'll have to check that out. Fascinating article about Marion McDowell, who was Edward McDowell's widow, and she founded an artist colony in his memory in New Hampshire in 1907. Yeah, Edward McDowell, he was another composer who tragically died fairly young. He kind of went insane towards the end of his life, and it was attributed to having been run over by a horse-drawn carriage, which I think physically he more or less recovered, but mentally he didn't. And I think he, like Chopin, I think he was also in his late 40s when he died. And one of the greatest concert pianists and composers ever. This guy is just really, really sad how he went out. If you've ever heard of the song "To a Wild Rose," that is by McDowell. It's probably the most famous thing he wrote, and that was the story behind that is that he had dashed it off as just kind of he had a habit of doing that. He would jot down ideas, musical ideas on scrap paper, and usually ended up throwing them away. Just over the course of his day, he jots something down, and then don't like it, toss it. And his wife found one of these scraps in the trash and looked at it like, no, you're making a finished composition out of this. So if you've ever heard "To a Wild Rose," you have his wife, Marion McDowell, to thank for that, because Edward would have just thrown it away. All right, moving on. Last couple of pieces here. This one, it's fitting. I titled it Prelude. This is one that I just wrote a couple weeks ago for Amanda and Paul's new show, The Magical Mystery Hour. If you haven't watched episode 1, go check it out. Episode 2 coming up in about a week and a half or so is going to be all ghost stories. They're doing some cool stuff on that show. So Amanda's request was for something a little bit spooky sounding, mysterious sounding. I think I achieved that. Hopefully you guys agree. And I think probably most of you have heard me play this. I played this, I think, 2 weeks ago on my show. But it's in keeping with the theme tonight. It fits, so we're going to hear it again. This is, I numbered it my 13th Prelude. I have a set of 12 I wrote a few years ago. And this stylistically, it's kind of the same as those, so I tacked it on. Magical Mystery Hour theme. I love it when I do the ending right. If I do it right, that real low E flat stays there through the entire ending, and it just fades into nothing, along with the last couple of those. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it fades out too fast, but got it that time. Yay! Thank you, guys. Yeah, I know. I actually really like that piece. I started. I jotted down the initial idea for it, and then looked at it again a few days later. I'm like, this needs to be longer than a 30-second ditty. So when you watch Amanda and Paul's show, Magical Mystery Hour, at least last week, I don't know if their last show, I don't know if they'll do it again for this upcoming show, but they just took like the first 30 seconds or so and looped it. So it's maybe at the ending credits we'll have them use the entire piece, but at the beginning it's just a loop. Yeah. All right. Last up for the evening. Oh, and hi, Mike and Nicole. Glad you guys are here. Last up for the evening is one that I'm going to be playing again this Friday. I like it that much for the POVS show. This is another one by Camille Sansol, and is just the perfect Halloween piece. Yet another transcription. I'm trying to think. Sansol did write some piano music. He was an incredible enough pianist and composer. I think when he was a teenager, he had all 32 of Beethoven's piano sonatas memorized. All 32. That's like a book this, well, okay, maybe not that thick, but it's like a book of music this thick. It's ridiculous, the amount of music that is, and the work it is to memorize that many different pieces of music. So needless to say, Sansol was an incredible pianist, brilliant composer. This particular work was written for orchestra. It is what is known as a tone poem. Tone poem typically being an orchestral piece of music, and typically being a musical illustration of some story or thematic material. So it's like there's a definite idea as to what inspired the work. In this case, this was after a poem by I'm not sure the pronunciation, Henri Cazalis. Cazalis. And the whole idea here is the whole thing this is based around is a belief in the supernatural, and at All Hallows Eve, you'd have skeletons coming up from graveyards, and they'd be doing this dance around the graves. It's yes, like a very weird video Amanda watched.
It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It might have been something loosely based on Dance Macabre. So,
Well, that's what it like. It was to the music.
oh, it was to the music. Oh, that's right. You did say it was to the music.
It was, but it was weird.
That was a really strange video.
Like 2004 homemade 3D graphic.
Oh dear.
Like skeletons. They were line dancing at one point.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, not this. So, significant moments of this piece. The opening, you're going to hear that note a bunch of times, 12 times to be specific, and that symbolizes the 12 strokes of midnight, after which the haunts appear and start their hellish dance around the grave. And then I believe at the end of the piece, you'll hear this. And I think that's supposed to signify, I'm not positive, I think that's supposed to signify the sun coming up, or the cock crowing, rooster, it's morning, and so the skeletons, and they all kind of work their way back underground, and it just sort of fades off. So this is, and this is another one. Highly recommend listening to the original orchestral version. It's very different from what you hear on the piano. But I love this piano transcription. It's just a lot of fun to play. So this is Dance Macabre by Camille Sansol. I hope you guys can't hear that. Lily is over here, kind of behind the camera. I don't know, but she was doing it during my prelude too. She's just laying on the floor, kind of minding her own business, but she keeps going and making all sorts of. Do you want to see if she's okay? All sorts of odd noises. Let me see. Yeah, this is the last piece. So you can hang out on the couch.
Okay, come here. Let's see if you're okay.
Yeah, so like I said, hopefully you guys can't actually hear that. Now she's very excited. Lily is. I think she might want to go out. All right, well, off we go. All right. Hope you guys like that one. I just love that piece. I had started off trying to learn a transcription that Franz Liszt made, which is extremely difficult, ridiculously difficult to play. Not one of his harder transcriptions as far as those go, but really, really tough. So I found that one, and that was like, yeah, this one's playable. Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, it's a really cool piece. Go listen to the orchestral version. It is really neat, very different from hearing it on piano. Yeah. So Amanda, do we want to do we have promos?
Yeah, we've got some last minute changes.
Oh. Okay, last minute changes.
Well,
Oh,
maybe.
maybe.
Well, I have my show tomorrow.
Yes, Amanda tomorrow. Villainous music. Any villain, anyone you want. Can be Disney, could be somebody totally different. Various inappropriate examples just spring to mind, which I won't say. Anyway.
So there's a small possibility that I will delay my show until Thursday.
Oh, okay.
I'm not positive yet, but there's no love cast on Thursday.
Oh, no love cast on Thursday. Okay.
So there's a possibility that I'll take that slot, but we will keep you updated.
Okay, so just in case you couldn't hear that, I'm sure you probably could. Amanda may move her show to Thursday. We haven't figured that out yet. If she does, she'll take the time slot vacated by the Lovecast, which is apparently not happening on Thursday. And we'll
keep you updated.
we'll keep you posted.
Facebook, so check it out. Hopefully it'll be on the same time. But,
Yeah.
so no love cast on Thursday.
Yes, no Lovecast on Thursday. Got it. And then Friday.
Is that this Friday already?
That is this Friday. Wait a minute.
Is
it?
I thought it was the next. I don't know. Wait.
What the heck day is it? No, today's the 18th. It is this Friday. Halloween Tea Party. And now you know what I'm going to be playing. I'm going to be playing the one I just played. Because I love it. And it's cool. And it's spooky. So yeah, join us for first Polly's online variety show in a while. It's been a bit since we had one. And it should be a fun show. Amanda and I are both in it. I think Paul is in it. Maybe. Slim chance. All your favorite folks are I think most likely going to be in it. So yeah, looking forward to it. That's Friday at 7. All right. And then a week from tonight, Gaming with Dari episode number 9. This is going to be, I believe, at 8 p.m. So time she's been running the show. Don't know yet what the theme is going to be. We'll find out. Join us next Tuesday night. It's been a lot of fun gaming with Dari these last several weeks, or months really now. Wow. Then coming up on October the 27th is the episode 2 of Magical Mystery Hour, to which I have alluded numerous times tonight. Ghost stories, and I believe Amanda and Paul were both soliciting ghost stories from all y'all out there in the audience as well. So if you haven't had a chance to submit a ghost story, you can contact Amanda or Paul. They can tell you how to do it. It's on my Facebook. It's on her face. Okay, it's on Amanda's Facebook. Go check it out. Submit your story if you have one. Make one up if you don't. We won't know the difference. And Amanda's going, Only true stories. Okay. True. All right, and then what? Okay. I'm just playing around. Everybody knows that, hopefully. Coming up next year, end of March, first weekend of April, Polly's Picnic on a cruise again. Doing it again. That was a lot of fun last year, so make sure you contact Anna Gianavola or Christina Beelan or Dari Mills. They can hook you up with tickets and such to that. It should be a whole lot of fun, and everybody you see on your screen there is going to be performing. I think there might be some others possibly, but it still hasn't been confirmed yet. But at least the folks you see on the screen, you'll get to enjoy their many and varied performances. So it should be a lot of fun. All right. And I have not, it occurred to me, I have not improvised anything in quite some time. So I think I will take the opportunity to do just that. I can actually even shut down this computer. Now, it wants to do a Windows update, so I'll just leave it on the screen. Yes, so actually, I don't know why I was about to use my pedals. All right, so improv. I don't know what's about to come out. I literally have given this no thought whatsoever until about 3 seconds ago, so here we go. All right. Don't know where that came from. Don't know where it went. Don't know where it was going. That's what you get with improv. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It's been a lot of fun playing this stuff for you guys tonight. And I haven't really thought about 2 weeks from now about what I'll do. Getting into November already. 2 weeks from now. November. Well, it's too early for Christmas stuff because it won't be my birthday yet. Actually, speaking of which, I was wondering earlier today if I was going to be doing a show on my birthday. So November 1st, 15th. Oh, the day before my birthday is a show day. Okay. Happy birthday to me. Anyhow, thank you guys for joining. Oh, hey, Craig, for joining tonight. And hope you guys liked the show. We'll see you either tomorrow night or Thursday night for Amanda on Demanda, villainous music, and then definitely see you again Friday night, where, among other things, you will hear Dance Macabre again from myself. So, hope everybody has a great night, and we'll see you next time. Bye.